Today I'm going to be starting this video essay off a bit differently, reading a short story from The Inner Game of Tennis written by W. Timothy Galloway. And it goes like this. 3 men are in a car driving down the city early one morning. For the sake of the analogy, suppose that each man represents a different kind of tennis player. The man sitting on the right is a positive thinker who believes that his game is great and he's full of self-esteem because his tennis game is so superior. He's also a self-admitted playboy who enjoys all the pleasures in life. The man sitting in the middle is a negative thinker who constantly analysing what is wrong with himself and the world. He's always involved in some kind of self-improvement program. The third man who's driving is in the process of letting go of judgmental thinking altogether. He plays the inner game, enjoying things as they are and doing what seems sensible. The car pulls up at a stoplight and crossing the street in front of the car is a beautiful young lady who catches the attention of all 3 men. Her beauty is particularly apparent as she is stark naked. The man on the right becomes engrossed in the thoughts of how nice it would be to be with this lady under other circumstances. His mind races through past memories and future fantasies of sensual pleasures. The man sitting in the middle is an example of modern decadence. He's not too sure if he should even be looking at this girl closely. First it'll be miniskirts, he thinks, then topless dancers, then bottomless dancers, and now they're out in the street in broad daylight naked? Something must be done about this. And then the driver is seeing the same girl that the others are observing, but is simply watching what is before his eyes. He sees neither good nor bad, and as a result, a detail comes to his attention which was not noticed by the other. The girl's eyes are shut. He realizes that the lady is sleepwalking, and responding immediately with common sense, he asks the person next to him to take the wheel and steps out of the vehicle and puts his overcoat over the woman's shoulders. He gently wakes her up and explains to her that she must have been sleepwalking and offers to take her home. There he received the rewards of his action. In February, I want to make a bunch of video essays discussing love, lust, and everything in between. The reason I read that analogy is because clearly it shows how the man in the middle was too focused on his own perspective to see the actual situation, and the man on the right was too focused on his sexual desires and fantasies to see the situation as well. I believe lust can be a very short-sighted and blind emotion, and in today's video essay we will be exploring this theme through K-Trap single Heaven or Hell. So let's take a trip and talk about lust. So K-Trap has a few songs that I would debate is his best song. Warm is his biggest hit. His OG fans will love songs like Paper Plans and David Blaine, and women love Interlude. So why have I decided to discuss the Gypsy Hill rapper song Heaven or Hell? Like I said in the intro, I feel like this perspective of lust is really interesting and speaks to the struggle a lot of modern men face in the modern dating landscape. But first, let's define lust. An intense, often overwhelming desire, most commonly for sexual gratification, but it can also refer to a powerful craving for things like power, money, food, or even life itself, showing an extreme eagerness or passion, often used disapprovingly for uncontrollable or selfish urges. This is according to Webster and the Cambridge Dictionary. Start with the first lyric. Want me the cleanest wife, or I want the baddest girl. Clean is a very interesting word to use because immediately I think of someone who's a virgin or has a low body count. Women who aren't outside. I think of women who dress somewhat modestly and could be found in certain wholesome places, you know, where they say, oh, find them in church or a supermarket. But another angle to look at this line is women who haven't been with a certain type of man. You hear a lot of guys say that they don't care about body count as long as the girls that they're speaking to haven't slept with one of the man them. Now this can be because it affects the relationship between friends, but I think hearing the way your friend may treat a woman poorly and then find out that one of the women you fancy has also fallen for said gambit can be a bit of a turn-off. But we'll discuss this more later. And also to discuss bad girls as well. Well, as a girl who's considered to be bad, usually has some sort of confidence about her and dresses however she wants and does pretty much whatever she wants. I'm going to go into this more later, but that's kind of the definition I would give. She's pretty much the polar opposite of what people consider to be a good girl. Now, the second line is, you look like you need some help. Told me to help myself, but I need help myself. I find this line really interesting because in this song, we're following K-Trap's point of view, who's deliberating over which girl he should pick. Bell Hooks made a great point in All About Love, that lying to yourself and looking for love will never align because you're not aligned with your true wants and needs. And the person you like, or the person who might like you, like a version of you, a facade. But as intimacy increases, the real you will eventually show. And yes, K-Trap might be able to help a woman financially, but in terms of an emotionally stable person that will be there in a long-term relationship where you grow and build with this person, he might not necessarily be at a point where he's ready to become that man. The reason I question this is because as men, we can at times put our emotional burden onto women in order to help save us. But have we taken the time to address the trauma and the side of ourselves that we refuse to allow to be vulnerable? Do we even know our true problem that's stopping us from finding a wife? And to go to the next line where he says, my wife was sent from heaven, I think I met my girl in hell. As he mentioned a biblical concept like heaven and hell, the Bible says in Proverbs 31 verses 11 to 12, in the NIV version, when discussing how a man views his wife, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. This mythical good woman who he views as his wife will make his time on earth peaceful and improve different areas of his life. But when chasing a bad girl, the thrill and pursuit at times can cloud the fact that maybe both of you aren't meant to be with each other, or it might be toxic for you to be with each other. Once that pursuit's over, you realize maybe you're not as compatible as you think. And the next line, he says, I'm nothing like them man before. Why do I act like I like shit perfect and I can't stand the whores? I remember once I was discussing my dating standards with a friend and she said that they were high. I was 17 and a lot of things I was describing were standards that if my life was audited were things that I was falling short with, or double standards I was happy to enjoy but would expect my partner to uphold and partake in. That last line in particular really hit home for me because as a man, you'll be able to like, if someone doesn't meet these standards, that you'll leave them and you'll never speak to them. But the truth may be that if you were given the opportunity, would you uphold these standards? Especially at 17, I don't think I would have. And to go to the next line where he says, my wife got a private page, my girl got an open one. With my girl, I'm stone cold, but with my wife, you're open. I brought up friends earlier, but moving to a woman and then seeing that one of your friends who sleeps with everyone is following her could be a real heartbreaking moment because now you project his lack of standards onto the girl. But the funny thing about the social media era and assumptions is that she might not have a clue who this guy is. They could have dated and he could have taken her out to a nice restaurant, but nothing happened. Or you just made a bunch of stories up in your head that haven't actually happened or aren't the case. Until you actually check or until you actually find out, you will never actually know what their situation is. And a lot of the times, we create these narratives in our head in order to justify why you shouldn't be with this person who could actually be the love of your life. And then in the next line, he says, take it slow on my main one, but this one I choke her up. Grabbing her hair, going in deep, got her legs in the air. My main one want me to do the same. Now it's getting all weird. Baby, I don't see you like that. Nah, I don't want to treat you like that. On the way home, whoa, awkward drive back. This line is really interesting to me because clearly there seems to be a point where respect stops him from doing his sexual desires with his wife, which may make him fulfilled, but clearly he has his main girl on a pedestal and he may not want to do such things with her and may keep things vanilla, which is interesting because this doesn't actually take his wife's desires into account. Now, if he was just doing these things with his wife, he wouldn't have to compartmentalize his sex life. This is why it's encouraged not to have sex before marriage, because what happens is if he cuts off his bad one and now he's just left with having vanilla sex, he'll be sexually unfulfilled and his wife will also be desiring more from him, but he won't be able to fulfill it because he doesn't necessarily view her as someone who should be having that type of sex. And that'll probably change the way he perceives her. And the next line he says, why am I acting fake? Like I can't stand your ways. Cuss you about the pictures you post on the gram, but I've been on your gram stalking for days. The Instagram algorithm is so interesting because you'll be speaking to a new person who posts regularly on a story, and Instagram will move all your friends to the side and show you her posts first. Your friends who you've been liking their post on their story all the time, they will show you her stories first. Now, every time she posts, you're reminded of her. And you might end up romanticizing her life with her because you see all of her best moments, her best outfits, her best meals, all of these things that can make her life seem maybe better than it is or just not what it is all the time. And another way this line can also relate to the gamification of modern dating is the scarcity principle, which is defined as the urge to love a challenge and pursue things that aren't easily accessible, which in life isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you think about it in terms of dating, you see a girl with 50k followers and now it becomes a challenge to some guys to gain her affection and to be the one out of 1,000 men who end up DMing her, chasing her, and actually sleeping with her, even though her followers or pictures say nothing about the character or who actually is the person. She can end up lining you up for all you know. Then the next line he says, how can I say I don't rate these girls? Then I'll go date these girls. I think I want good and bad. That's why I'm rotating girls. Indecisive, open, but I want private. I like bad girls, but I can't hide it. I want a good girl, but it's all timing. This is a clear example of cognitive dissonance, which is defined as the mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more contradictory beliefs, values, or attitudes when behavior conflicts with these beliefs. And clearly K-Trap doesn't respect these girls he considers to be bad, but for some reason is always dating or pursuing them. I think for me personally, when I made a similar mistake, I've realized it's easier to date and pursue these women because it is a performance and a chase, and it doesn't last as long as a long-term relationship. And once you achieve your goal, you can see clearly and then realize, I don't actually have to perform or do what I have to do anymore because I've won, pretty much. And then rather than seeing yourself as a person, you're more so seen as a service provider, someone who just provides benefit to this woman and isn't actually a person. And then you don't realize it, but you are now the architect of your own dehumanization. And this can also lead to you looking for validation and approval in another person where you want them to pretty much tick off the box that you are now a successful person. But if you search for someone who actually loved you for your interest and who you truly are, you'll probably be in a much more fulfilling relationship and feel love similar to some of your closest friendships, which is an interesting thing to think about. Now, the final bit I want to speak about is this. So my good girl don't ever be like my bad girl, but I want to be with my bad girl. I find this line really interesting because it's kind of him coming to the realization that, you know, maybe I don't actually want a good woman. Another aspect of this whole baddie girl persona thing that I failed to mention is that oftentimes these women are perceived to be the women who chase hedonistic pleasure. So that means like popping bottles, going outside, having a bunch of fun. You see them in Dubai, Miami, all these fun places, doing a bunch of things on social media. And oftentimes this actually lines up well with the rapper lifestyle. So why not date a girl who is in this field? Why not date a girl who's enjoying life the way that rappers often enjoy life? And oftentimes, the only problem a lot of guys have is that they think that these girls are doing morally questionable things to attain these things, whether that be having sex with guys that they don't find attractive in, like sugar daddies or whatnot. But these girls could just have good jobs. So why can't K-Trap find the mix, find someone in the middle who meets both the good and the bad, and eventually settle down and cuff this type of person? Maybe he might not do this because his friends might view it as, cuffing her, she's been with this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy, and his pride might get in the way. But a lot of the times, these women might be the women that are best suited for these type of men. But yeah, that's been my thoughts on K-Trap's song Heaven or Hell, a song that made me do a lot of self-reflecting and ask myself, you know, why am I attracted to a certain type of woman, you know? What characteristics do I actually want in my wife? And what should I be pursuing and what shouldn't I be pursuing? But yeah, leave in the comments below what your favorite K-Trap song is. But it's been your boy Jay to the Izzo, and I am out.